Welcome to the Virtual Business Owners Network on Friday, 24th of October. And we're delighted to have Warren Harding continuing the whole discussion around AI for the group. And so can I say, Warren, please take it away.
Okay, thank you very much. So I think, and I apologize, I missed last week. I was at a wedding, but what we seem to have spoken about so far really is AI tools that you can access and use. So ChatGPT, or there's other tools that you can use to do writing and or to create LinkedIn posts, that sort of thing. So what I really want to talk about today is more agentic AI and how you can build it into your own systems. And with that then comes the question, what is agentic AI and what is the difference between it and automation? And it can often be quite confusing. And sometimes, when you want a simple automation, you might think you want AI, or sometimes if you think you have AI, it might just be a simple automation that you actually have. And I suppose the problem is that everything is now hyped as AI powered. So right from your toaster is AI powered to your washing machine to, farmers tilling the land, all of that sort of stuff. Everything is AI powered. Um, for the moment, to me, this is more hype than reality. I look at some applications that they say is AI powered, and you're scratching your head going, how the hell are they, what are they actually doing there? So today I really want to delve into sort of the difference between automation and agentic AI and how you can build it into your own systems and build it into systems that your customers use and how you can actually use agentic AI and automation. So, as I said, automation, it's not agentic AI. Automation, it follows rules. It's like a robot. If you could think about people who've used macros on Excel, it's where you can have repeatable, you can do something and you can repeat it, and the same thing will happen all the time. So it follows rules. It's like a robot. So if we think, for example, a customer makes an appointment with you and they get an email or they get an SMS instantly. There's no AI involved in that. It's a simple automation. If then else, nothing beyond that. Agentic AI, though, is slightly different. It kind of understands your goals and it adapts. Think of it as an assistant. So it's a little bit more than just following rules and, if something happens, then do this. What you can do with agentic AI is you can say, if something happens, then, think about, what did the customer actually say? Did they say they were interested, or did they say they weren't interested? If they said they were interested, then how should you react? If they said they weren't interested, how should you react? And it's a little bit cleverer than that. So if we start with automation, as I said, you've got a practical win, and I would advise anybody who's looking at building products or building building tools to help them with manage their customers and to manage their business, to start with automation and then to move on to agentic AI. Starting with automation, it gives you a practical win. So if we go back to the example that I mentioned before, it was a case of if you make an appointment, then you can follow it up with an SMS. You could have a reminder. So Google is full of automation. So if you have if you have a meeting coming up and you get a reminder, that's an automation. If you generate reports, they're automations. Customer support, you get an email from a customer and you send a canned response saying, we've got your email and we'll be back to you within the next 3 hours or the next 3 days or whatever it is. It's repeatable logic, it's stable, it's low risk, and it's very easy to implement. If we move on then to agentic AI, so you're going from task-based to goal-based. So instead of going back to the customer and saying, we got your email and we'll be back to you in the next 3 hours, what you can actually do is the agent can read it. The agent will read the customer's email and make a decision on whether it can actually answer the question or not. So you will have your knowledge base. Your AI agent will have that knowledge base, access to your business and your data, not necessarily everything else that's out there on the internet, and it can make a decision as to whether to answer the email and send a response to the customer or to pass it back to you. So you're getting something more like an assistant. And if you think about AI and you think about an assistant, what I'd say is think about a really clever intern. Think about somebody who is really enthusiastic. They're very clever, but they don't have much experience. And that's what your AI assistant is. It's somebody who can go through your data, and they're very enthusiastic, and they'll go through your data and they'll understand your business. But you don't want to make the you don't want you want to give them plenty of guidance in terms of what they can do. So in terms of sort of just give you some examples, and these are examples that I've worked on. So a chatbot assistant, I have a chatbot assistant which is live on many websites. The problem is not very many people use it, to be honest about it. So, if you go to my website, you'll see a chatbot. It's a really clever chatbot. It really understands my business. If you ask it about pricing, it'll tell you about pricing. If you ask it about lead times, it'll tell you about lead times. It'll go back. It has access to all my blogs. It has access to my entire website. It's also on several other websites. I put it on one recently, a company that sells or they sell beds to people who are very, very sick and who need to be able to live in their bed, basically. The website is called caretocomfort.ie, and it really understands their business, and it can answer questions about whether, your condition, what sort of a bed should you get for your condition, what price is it. It'll answer questions on, can you get the VAT returned on it? Can you get tax relief on it? All of those sorts of things. But very few people use it because there isn't that much trust at the moment in AI assistants. Vodafone recently published a report where they said, and this is Vodafone Ireland, and I can't remember the name of their AI assistant, but they said 60% of their interactions with customers are handled by the AI assistant. Now, I don't know if you've ever dealt with Vodafone, but their AI assistant is appalling. After I read that, I tried to access it, and I tried to ask it a couple of questions about my account, and it didn't answer any of them. So I really don't know how they're getting 60%. In the old days, when you had a chatbot, what you would do is you'd have as many FAQs together. You'd have maybe 50, 60, 100, 200 questions, and you'd hope that the customer would ask that question. Now what you do is you actually provide the chatbot with a knowledge base about your business, and it uses what's called semantic search. So instead of just looking for a question, so if I ask if I ask a specific question, it's not going to just look for that question. It'll take sort of the tenor of the question and the vibe of the question, if you want to use that word, and it'll go off and find answers that are related. So it's not just looking for keywords; it's looking for sentiment, and it's called semantic search. And it's really it's fantastic. It's really revolutionized the way a chatbot works. But unfortunately, people have had such bad experience with a chatbot that they don't tend to use it. Another example of something you could do with a chatbot assistant would be, for example, putting together, let's say I was speaking recently to a mortgage advisor and to a mortgage broker. And what he wanted to do was he wanted to have a chatbot assistant that would allow his customers to chat with the chatbot, express an interest in getting approval in principle, and would then be routed off. They could just answer questions while in the chatbot, and they'd automatically be emailed approval in principle later on. Now, he didn't progress it because there were various different things that were going on, but that's a great example of what you can use AI for. Another example, a support email agent. So if you're curious and you can send a question off to support@tillagetrack.ie. That's an app that farmers can use to maintain their records on their tillage farm. That email is sent first of all to an agent. The agent looks through the database and says, can I answer this question? And if it can answer it, or it creates the answer, it then sends it to a second agent. And the second agent looks at the original question and looks at the answer provided by the first agent and says, does this actually answer the question? And if it does, it'll send the email and it'll send the response back. And if the second agent isn't impressed by the answer, it'll send an email to the person who is responsible for support@tillagetrack.ie, and they can then get back to the customer themselves. So it's quite intelligent. It'll answer a question if it can, and if it can't, it'll say, I'm not going to try this. So if you ask it what the meaning of life is, you shouldn't get a response. If you ask, how do I sign up? It'll probably send you a response and tell you how to do it. Invoice processing. An agent creating accounts entry. So, for example, a lot of people will, you mentioned Zoho earlier, Alec. I'm sure Zoho have the ability to snap a picture of a receipt and then upload it to the accounting system. In the old days, that would have been very, very difficult to do. You would have been using optical character recognition, trying to figure things out. Now you can just send it to an AI agent. I've built myself an app for managing my own invoices and managing my own receipts, and that's exactly what I do. I take a picture and it goes into a database. The AI populates it. I recently launched with another partner a food safety app for restaurants. And one of the things we're using AI there for is also to take photographs. So at restaurants, as you know, everything has to be traceable. Um, if meat comes in, if anything hot comes in, if anything cold comes in, if anything frozen comes in, it all needs to be traced. Restaurants at the moment, most restaurants are writing it down on a piece of paper. Other restaurants are typing it into an app. Anybody who's using our app, they'll take a photograph of the label, and all of that data will be transferred to the database, and the restaurant will have a full history of all of their food inbound deliveries, and what's the batch number, what's the expiry date, all of that sort of stuff. So one restaurant that I was talking to last week, they managed to bring it down from about 40 minutes work every day to about 5 minutes work. So you're saving over half an hour a day with just by doing that. Other areas, so I built a travel guide app for which it was when this was something just to sort of prove that it works. I took Kildare, the town, which has quite a few historical monuments in it, put in all the knowledge base, created the knowledge base based on what Kildare tourism have provided. And now as a customer, or as if you're a user, you can go in and say what you're interested in. Are you interested in history? Do you want a kid's version? And what it does is it'll give you the version that you want. It'll give you you can tell it, I want a real quick read, or I have more time and I'd like something in depth. So that's something else that AI is great for. Another example of something that people can use AI for is working with one customer. He's in the health and safety area. And what he wants to do is, he's in health and safety and construction. What he wants to do is he wants to take in people's safety statements, and he wants to periodically check them against legislation. And if the legislation has been updated, or if the guidelines coming from the Construction Industry Federation or from the Health and Safety Authority have changed, then he wants to automatically change those documents and issue them to his customers, letting them know what's changed and what they need to watch out for. So that's something that I'm working on at the moment. And then the last thing I'm working on, and it's in progress at the moment, is sort of a smart nudge. It's for a business that it's a service business for customers, and it tries to upsell to them based on their previous behavior. So it's that kind of gives you an example of the real world examples of what we're working on with AI, and some of the things that we can done for customers. If you want to ask yourself, what can you do with agentic AI and what would you build into your systems? The simple answer is, if you had 10 interns available to you, what would you ask them to do? Because that's where you start. You say, right, if I had a clever intern, what would I ask them to do? And that's exactly what you automate and what you use the AI to do. So whether that's, I was at a conference yesterday, it was all about innovation. They did their best not to talk about AI, but there was one lady talking about sustainability, and how a lot of companies now, they need to maintain sustainability registers, and they need to maintain their carbon footprints. And they're using AI again to take pictures of invoices and transfer data into a database for that. So, normally that's the sort of thing you give to an intern. So if you think of your AI agent as a very clever intern, that's what you'd kind of start with doing. And so remember, if you're thinking of using AI and integrating it into your own systems, start with the boring stuff. Let the tech do the grunt work. And remember that AI is like having a really clever entry-level clerk or intern with boundless enthusiasm and energy. And that kind of just brings me to the end. And apologies, I know I went way over. But just to finish with, technology isn't always necessary. I know that I, for one, I hate changing the bedclothes, because I never know on the sheets which side is long and which side is the width. So sometimes it's just as simple as, you don't need a technology solution for everything. That photograph should say everything. You've got a short side and a long side. So thanks very much. And apologies for going over on that, Alec.
No, that's fantastic. It's great. And you've identified something. I'll get you stop sharing there now.
Yeah, how do I stop sharing in a second?
Hang on, I can probably do it for you.
Done it here now.
You have it. Grant, you
okay.
I think what you've opened up a conversation about is um, everybody's thinking about AI, but we're not thinking of automations or the combinations of automations and AI.
Mm.
So which is which, and how do you make the best out of it? And I like your analogy of using the intern. What would you get them to do? So I think it's important that people look at what are the tasks we want done, and is it an automation or is it AI? And perhaps there should be a talk on automations and how automations work, or what tools are the best. Now, Zapier is, I think, is one of them. Sean would be very familiar with automations. So maybe we should have a presentation on automations. I'm not throwing you under the bus for that, Sean. I'm just saying, but we should have one. What automations are out there? Because if we can separate the automations from the AI, then we might have a much more productive business out of it.
Yeah, and I think like it's important to note as well that something like 37% of all the finance and funding that's been raised in the United States at the moment is for AI.
Mm.
So companies that are getting this money, and the top 10 technology companies are spending a huge amount of money, way over the top, in my opinion, and a lot of the logic for it is that they don't want to be left behind, so they're investing in everything,
I
and
think
somebody's got to
also
pay
what
for that.
I
But
think
they're
Yeah,
also
also
somebody's
investing
got
in
to.
each other.
I think also what we're
Yeah.
seeing is that there are companies that are buying other companies that are smaller because they haven't got the mechanics to move quickly. They're already in silos and whatever. So an entrepreneur builds an AI system of X, Y, Z, and they go, right, I'm going to buy that. Yeah, because it's easier to buy it than it is to build it themselves. Not because they can't. They're just too ingrained.
Hmm.
All right,
And
this
I
is
think,
putting in
like, I think,
register today.
oh,
There we go. Yeah.
I think automation is still got a part to play here. In
Definitely.
one of the things we're not seeing is any change in productivity as a result of AI. So the big indices that measure this, and now it takes time, of course. So it's not fair to say that it's not having an effect. It is having an effect, and it's helping us all to do stuff that previously we struggled with. But in terms of productivity, automation still has a place to play, a part to play, and like some of that automation is now created by AI. So stuff that we would connect and create tasks for it to do, like AI models can now go in there and do that for us. So like it is taking over, but it's not quite there
Just
yet.
can I pick up on that point, Sean? So I mentioned
Yeah.
my customer in the health and safety area. So he goes out and he carries out inspections. Think of it as the NCT for, heavy plant and machinery in the construction industry. So I've built him several systems. Some of them are customer facing, some of them are just for him. The systems that I built for him to help to assist him when he goes out to do those inspections and to create certificates afterwards. He reckons they have saved him in admin time, his company and the people in the office, 3 months per year. There isn't a hint of AI anywhere near them. And when we look at it, we can't figure out, well, where could we add AI? Now, in fairness, I use AI when I'm creating his code, when I'm writing his code, and AI has actually probably halved the amount of time that it takes me to write code. So it's certainly impactful there. But good old automations are still the ones that are saving their time. It was funny when you said AI isn't we're not seeing productivity. I was thinking, oh well, we are. I've got an example. Then I thought, no, it's not AI, it's an automation.
Yeah.
Warren,
So that's
Yeah,
great.
no, look at it. It is the future. Like
Mm.
I tell our clients to be careful with,
Mm.
particularly with critical parts of their systems. Like use AI for what it's really good at, but don't rely on it totally.
Mm.
Not now, not yet.
I
I'm
think
just being
what you
cautionary. And
the
when I
problem,
say that at network meetings, I always get attacked that I
yeah.
hate AI, and I don't. We use it
No.
ourselves, but just being careful. That's all.
The problem is where you mentioned, Sean, productivity. The thing is, you've still got to go back and check everything. There's still got to be a human
Mm.
oversight there. And until we get to the point where there doesn't have to be hopefully we don't get to the point where there's not human oversight, but the productivity suffers because you're doing a job and then you're doing it again and in a different way. So I think that's the issue is that you've still got to the chatbots. Warren said chatbots are an absolute nightmare. I haven't found one good chatbot yet.
Ah, you haven't used mine yet, Chris.
I haven't used yours, sir. That's the next. I'm now going on to that. That's the next.
It's actually it's the old. You see, chatbots got a bad name because they were traditionally so bad.
Right,
If the question you asked wasn't in the list of questions that it was trained on, and it wasn't even trained on, it was just going to a database.
Absolutely.
But semantic AI has changed that. I've actually got a really good blog. I'll put it. I don't know if anyone would be interested in reading it, but I've got a good blog post on my website about semantic AI or semantic search. I just put the link there in the chat. It's really interesting how it actually works.
Okay, I'm just going to put in who's here today. There's the link for that. And then the one-to-ones, which Sean has kindly given me as well.
I mean, the banks are super guilty on the chatbots. They're just a nightmare. I mean, we tried to open our bank account as a joint account, and this with Commerzbank, and they're like the second largest bank in Germany. You'll know, Warren. And it was just from start to finish. It's asking questions. It's saying, you want to open a joint account as a business, blah blah blah. Then 1 minute you can have an appointment with somebody physically, then you can't. Then you go to the branch, and when we set Let's Rock Up 3 years ago, we actually had 5 different meetings or 5 different things to do to go into Frankfurt, which is 7 kilometers away. And each time we went to where they said to go to, based on the chatbot, there wasn't anybody that could help us at all, and you just get more and more. It ends up costing you a lot of time and money, and you just get really frustrated with it.
The building
just putting
society
in the
here is
one-to-one
based
there.
on ad on that, Chris.
Say again, Nick?
The Building Society in Ireland has based an ad on not engaging with a chatbot.
Really?
Yeah, that do it in person,
Yeah.
So the humans will revolt,
I think what's more useful is like an AI helpers, where you're on a product or a platform and you don't know where you're going, and then you could actually build some. I'm working on something at the moment where you actually build something that helps the person sort of onboard to the product more. So it's more of a helper and a guide that's AI driven rather than a bot.
Okay, can I just say we'll close that off now, if you don't mind, ma'am.